They say the sky remembers its heroes. For Emily Rhodes, it remembers her ghosts. 5 years ago, she was a legend, a shadow known only as Ghost Hawk, flying missions that whispered of impossible bravery and silent sacrifice. But a final fiery mission cost her everything, including the one person she vowed to protect. Now she walks the Texas tarmac not as a pilot, but as a quiet instructor, her past buried deep beneath a calm, detached exterior. She trades the roar of a jet engine for the hum of a simulator, believing she has outrun the specter of her former self. But on this ordinary morning, as the chilling scream of an air raid siren shatters her peaceful world, she'll discover that some wounds never heal and some vows were made to be broken. The sky is calling for its ghost, and this time the price of answering might be her soul. The Texas sun beat mercilessly on the sprawling air base, its heat rising off the runway in quivering waves. Engines whined in the distance, their restless hum mingling with the bark of flight crews and the clatter of tools against metal. Pilots in flight suits hurried between hangars, shadows of sleek Raptors and F-35s glinting against the tarmac like hunting birds. Emily Rhodes walked through it all like a ghost. Her olive green jumpsuit bore no name, no rank, no patches to tell her story. Her pace was unhurried, her movements quiet. To anyone watching, she was just another civilian instructor, one of the anonymous few tasked with guiding nervous recruits through the complexities of flight simulators. She never boasted, never let her tone rise above calm instruction, never offered even a hint of the life she'd left behind. Almost no one here knew the truth. 5 years ago, she wasn't Emily Rhodes, the soft-spoken civilian. She was Ghost Hawk, one of the best combat pilots the Air Force had ever produced. Her call sign was whispered across squadrons with a mix of awe and superstition. She had flown missions that didn't exist on paper, through skies that swarmed with death, in places where a single mistake meant the end. Ghost Hawk had been the blade sent into enemy territory when the cost of failure was unthinkable. But legends bleed, and fame, silent or not, exacts a price. Her last mission had ended in fire and screams, leaving scars too deep to show, and ghosts that followed her into every quiet moment. When she walked away from combat, she swore she would never touch a cockpit again. Since then, Emily had built a smaller life for herself, quiet, disciplined, almost monastic. She taught recruits to fly through the safe glow of simulator screens, to maneuver jets that were made of light and code instead of steel and fuel. She spoke to them with patience, her voice steady, detached, almost like she wasn't really there. The rookies respected her and whispered about her. Some swore she had flown before, though none could prove it. One trainee, sweating under the glow of the simulator's display, had once dared to ask, "Ma'am, you've flown a real fighter before, haven't you?" Emily only smiled, letting the silence answer for her, and shifted the lesson back to the instruments. That morning began like any other. Emily sipped her black coffee in the control booth, watching three jittery recruits fumble through a basic dogfight scenario. "Ease your grip," she said softly into her headset. "The throttle's not a lever you fight. It's part of you. Feel it. Let the aircraft dance with you, not against you." Her voice was calm, almost meditative. Outside the walls of the simulator room, the real base hummed along in its usual rhythm. Somewhere above the clouds, the memory of another life hovered, distant, almost forgotten. Then the alarm began to wail. At first, it was only a faint siren, something that could be mistaken for another routine drill. But then the klaxons erupted, sharp and insistent, slicing through the base like a blade. The intercom crackled with a voice that carried a weight no drill ever had. "Unidentified aircraft approaching restricted airspace. All active pilots report to stations immediately." Emily's coffee slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor. She barely noticed the scalding splash across her boots. From the window, she saw the base transform in an instant. Pilots sprinted toward hangars. Engineers scrambled to prep jets for launch. Radios buzzed with jagged bursts of tension. The air itself seemed to vibrate. She froze. Her instincts screamed that this wasn't a drill. She knew that sound, the urgent pitch of an alarm meant for life or death moments. She'd heard it before, in the final seconds before skies turned to fire. "Ma'am, you need to get to the bunker," a young airman shouted as he bolted past her, his helmet under one arm. Emily nodded automatically, but her feet refused to move towards safety. Something deeper pulled at her, a cold electric thread that dragged her toward the control tower. Inside the command center, the air crackled with fear and movement. Technicians hunched over screens, fingers flying. Large monitors displayed a single blip racing across the radar. Unidentified drone moving at Mach speeds, a voice called out, heading towards civilian airspace. Estimated time to breach, 10 minutes. The base commander's face was red with urgency as he barked, "Get the Raptors in the air, now!" "Sir," another officer stammered, panic creeping in. "Raptor 1's pilot just collapsed. Seizure, maybe. He's out cold. Raptor 2 is grounded with an engine fault. We've got no one prepped to flight Giao." The commander's fist slammed against the console. "We need a pilot, now!" Emily felt her pulse thundering in her ears. She didn't belong here, not anymore. But her body knew this language, this danger. Her eyes locked on its tactical display. The drone was moving fast, its trajectory cutting a straight line toward a city that had no idea it was minutes from disaster. An older officer scanning the emergency roster suddenly froze. His gaze shifted, landing on the quiet woman in the back of the room. "Sir," he said carefully, I know someone who can fly." The commander turned, following the officer's gaze. His eyes narrowed. "Her? That's just a simulator instructor." "She's not just an instructor," the officer said, voice low with something almost like reverence. "She's Ghost Hawk." The room went still. Every head turned toward Emily. She felt the weight of it settle on her chest. Ghost Hawk. She hadn't heard that name spoken aloud in years. It felt like someone had pulled a ghost out of her bones and held it up to the light. "You?" the commander asked, disbelief warring with a fragile hope. "You flew with Echo Squadron?" Emily said nothing. Her throat tightened, her past clawing its way to the surface. She had sworn she would never fly again. Not after that last mission. The faces of her lost squad mates were carved into her memory, waiting behind her eyelids every night. To step into a cockpit again would be to tear open a wound that had never closed. But the radar didn't care about her ghosts. The drone didn't care about her promises. Time was running out. The commander's voice softened. "We don't have anyone else." Emily's heartbeat hammered against her ribs. Her gaze shifted to the young recruits, standing frozen with wide, terrified eyes. They were children compared to the skies she had known. Sending them up there would be sending them to die. She took a long, slow breath. Her voice, when it came, was steady. "Prep the Raptor." The room erupted into motion. Her words were a spark thrown into dry brush, igniting a storm of activity. Technicians bolted toward the hangars, boots echoing on polished floors. Warnings beeped from the consoles like frantic heartbeats. Emily stood in the middle of it all, her calm center masking the storm inside her. She felt the weight of the decision settle into her bones. There was no taking it back now. The commander glanced at her, his tone quieter now, almost human. "Do you still remember the controls?" "Once you've flown a Raptor," Emily said, her voice firm, "you never forget." The older officer stepped closer, his eyes almost shining. "You saved a whole strike team over Kandahar. If anyone can stop that drone, it's you." Emily didn't answer. Kandahar came rushing back uninvited. The burning horizon, the choking smoke, the echo of voices that would never answer again. And now, the sky was calling her back. The sharp rattle of anti-aircraft fire tore through the air, followed by the panicked scream of her wingman's voice in her headset. Then silence. The signal died. Emily's jaw locked tight. This wasn't about medals, reputation, or reliving her glory days. Not this time. This was about lives, saving them before it was too late. The air outside was alive with case. The runway vibrated with energy as crews swarmed around the Raptor like ants on a hot blade, their hands moving with frantic precision over hydraulics, fuel lines, and weapon checks. Heat shimmered off the tarmac, carrying the acrid tang of jet fuel into Emily's nose, a smell she hadn't realized she'd missed. Each step toward the fighter felt heavier than the last, the gravel crunching under her boots like a slow drumbeat of inevitability. "Ma'am, you're cleared for launch in 5 minutes, a young technician said, his voice pitched with both urgency and awe. He held out her helmet with both hands, staring at her the way a rookie might stare at a living legend. Emily gave a single nod. She didn't smile. Legends didn't save anyone. Action did. Inside the command center, the radar screens told a story more chilling than the heat outside. A rogue drone was accelerating, slicing through restricted airspace like a predator, testing the edges of its cage. This wasn't a civilian recon unit, it was military-grade, possibly autonomous, and armed with weapons capable of catastrophic destruction if it reached the city. Estimated time to urban breach, 8 minutes, an officer called out, his voice tight with dread. We're out of time. Ghost Hawk, we're counting on you, the commander said over the intercom. His tone carried the weight of both hope and desperation. Emily climbed the ladder into the Raptor's cockpit. Her gloved fingers brushed the smooth curve of the canopy as old memories crashed over her. The rush of her first solo flight, the trembling satisfaction of her first confirmed kill, and the cold terror of the last time she flew under fire. She sank into the seat, feeling the harness straps bite across her chest like they were holding her heart in place. The cockpit came alive with a soft electronic glow, the familiar language of switches and displays that felt like coming home. Systems online, a mechanic's voice crackled in her headset. Her hands settled on the controls and the outside world began to blur. The shouts of mechanics, the pounding of boots, the low hum of tension that filled the base. Inside the Raptor, she was somewhere else entirely. The soft thrum of the engines sent a shiver up her spine. She wasn't Ghost Hawk yet, but something deep inside her had started to wake. Ma'am, drone visuals are on your HUD now, the young technician said. Her visor lit up with the image of the rogue aircraft, a sharp, angular silhouette darting across the sky with a predator's grace, every movement precise and unnervingly intentional. Copy, she said, her voice calm, even as her pulse hammered like a distant war drum. The Raptor's engines spooled up, vibrating through her bones. Out by the hangar, her trainees had gathered, staring in wide-eyed silence as if they were watching a ghost step back into the living world. She's just an instructor, one whispered. Not anymore, another muttered. That's Ghost Hawk. The fighter rolled toward the runway, guided by a ground crewman waving fluorescent wands. Emily's breathing slowed. Muscle memory took over. Every switch, every line of the checklist felt like a sacred ritual she had performed 1,000 times before. Ghost Hawk, you are clear for immediate launch, the control tower said. Emily eased the throttle forward. The engines roared to life, a primal scream of metal and fire, and the Raptor surged down the runway. Her grip tightened on the stick. Then the ground fell away beneath her. The fear evaporated. The hesitation dissolved. And for the first time in years, she was flying, truly flying. Inside the tower, every eye tracked the single blip racing up the radar screen. She's climbing fast, an officer said, wonder threading through his voice. She's moving like she's part of the jet, another added. The older officer leaned forward, eyes shining with memory. She is. Ghost Hawk was born for this. On her HUD, the drone appeared as a glowing red icon, darting across the sky with erratic intelligence. Emily banked hard, the Raptor's wings slicing the air in pursuit. The aircraft responded like it remembered her touch, as if it had been waiting for her return. She pushed higher, climbing into steel-gray clouds. This thing's fast, she muttered. Ghost Hawk, do not engage until visual confirmation, the commander ordered. Copy, she said, though a part of her already knew this would be a hunt, not a chase. The sensors marked the drone just a few miles ahead. Emily's breath slowed. She couldn't simply follow it. She had to think like it, anticipate its next move. It's not flying randomly, she murmured. It's testing me. What do you mean, the commander asked. This isn't just a drone. It's either controlled or programmed to think like a pilot. Her hand hovered over the weapon switch. She could feel the old part of herself, the part she had buried, stirring fully awake. Blood rushed through her veins, hot and electric. Ghost Hawk, do you have eyes on the target? Almost, she said, and a faint smile pulled at the corner of her lips. But tell them to clear the skies. This isn't a drill anymore. The Raptor carved through the clouds like a blade. Her HUD flickered with warnings. Wind shifts, enemy movement, streams of incoming telemetry. Everything about this drone screamed danger. It was built to think, built to kill, built to outmaneuver human instinct. Ghost Hawk, status? The commander pressed. his voice cracking through static. She hesitated for a heartbeat. That name, Ghost Hawk, echoed in her headset, a ghost of its own. She'd buried it long ago, along with the version of herself who made impossible decisions in the space of a breath, who danced with death and always came back. But soaring at Mach speeds, danger minutes away, she felt that fire rekindle. Ghost Hawk, do you copy? Copy, she said finally, her voice steady as steel. I have radar lock. It's fast. Faster than anything I've ever seen. Stay sharp. Civilian airspace breach in less than 6 minutes, the commander warned. Then came the low, steady voice of the older officer. You still have it, don't you? Emily didn't answer. Her heart was already racing. Her mind flashed back to the last mission, the one that ended Ghost Hawk's career, the Black Ops ambush that stole her wingman. Mark Falcon Hayes. Even now she could hear his final screams over the radio, could see the fire swallowing his jet in the dark foreign sky. That was the day she swore she'd never fly again. But up here, with the Raptor alive beneath her and danger streaking ahead, she felt him with her, felt his voice urging her forward. Then she saw it, sleek and black against the pale sky, cutting through clouds with inhuman precision. The rogue drone wasn't just moving, it was hunting. Visual confirmed, Emily said, her tone cold and focused. This isn't just reconnaissance, it's combat ready. Engage if necessary, the commander said, every word taut with tension. Don't take unnecessary risks, the commander's voice crackled through her headset. Your top priority is to keep that thing from breaching the city's airspace. Emily almost laughed. A sharp, humorless sound caught in her throat. Unnecessary risks? Combat had never worked that way. Every move in the sky was a gamble, and Ghost Hawk, she, had always been the one to go all in. The impossible shot, the suicidal dive, the maneuver nobody sane would dare. That was who she had been. The rogue drone jolted upward, snapping into a violent climb that twisted her stomach. It wasn't just fast, it was reading her, anticipating every response. Her hands moved on instinct, rolling the Raptor hard left, matching its wild angle perfectly. The jet became her body, the stick, her pulse. Every tiny movement flowed through her like muscle memory she hadn't lost, no matter how many years she'd spent grounded. Vitals are spiking, Ghost Hawk. Hands are shaking. The young technician's voice cut in from the control room. Are you okay? I'm fine, Emily said, clipped and certain. I need full radar clearance. No interference. The commander's reply was immediate. We've cleared the zone. You're all alone up there. Good, she muttered, eyes never leaving the target's darting shape. Below, in the humming quiet of the control room, no one spoke. The recruits, those same kids who had once dismissed her as just a simulator instructor, now watched the radar like they were witnessing a legend unfold. Her movements on the screen were sharp, deliberate, almost artistic. She's unreal, one whispered, breath caught. That's Ghost Hawk, the older officer said, pride woven through his gravelly voice. I've seen her pull off missions that had no right to succeed. This isn't a drill for her. This is survival. The recruits leaned in, wide-eyed, as Emily's Raptor snapped into a high G turn to evade a burst of fire from the drone. Tracers lit the sky like fleeting meteors. Whoa! Someone in the tower yelped. That thing's armed? Emily's breathing slowed, but her thoughts sharpened to a lethal edge. Not a standard drone, she confirmed, voice steady. This is AI-controlled and carrying live ordnance. Someone sent it here deliberately. The commander swore under his breath. Then take it down, Ghost Hawk. That's an order. Roger that, she said softly, climbing higher, feeling the heavy weight of the past press against her chest. Falcon's voice haunted her in the slipstream of memory, his laughter, his last words. She had left the Air Force after his death because she thought she'd lost it. Her instincts, her edge. But now, with the sky alive with danger and adrenaline, those instincts roared back to life, guiding every nerve and motion. Her fingers hovered over the weapons panel. Missiles armed, but she didn't fire. Not yet. Patience, she whispered to herself, just like old times. The drone dived at her, unnervingly agile. Emily rolled her Raptor upside down, slicing through the descent in a maneuver that twisted her gut. And suddenly, she wasn't Emily Rhodes, the quiet flight instructor, anymore. She was Ghost Hawk again. The sky belonged to her. Target locked, she murmured, eyes narrowing on the HUD. Take the shot, the commander urged. Not yet, she said, waiting for the perfect angle. Her breathing slowed. The world shrank to a single glowing dot on the display. Her finger hovered on the trigger. Then memory struck like lightning. Falcon's last transmission. Ghost, you're the only one who can pull this off. Her jaw clenched. Not this time. I won't fail. The drone veered left, breaking her lock. Damn it, Emily hissed, jerking the stick hard. Her body crushed into the seat under the brutal G-force. Her blood roared. Adrenaline burnt. This wasn't a dogfight, it was a chess match against a machine that learned. 5 minutes until breach, a voice warned from the tower. Not if I can stop it, she replied, her tone cold as a blade. The chase intensified. Her Raptor screamed through the clouds, every second cutting closer to the city. The drone's jagged silhouette danced ahead, elusive, intelligent. Emily's focus narrowed until only that moving shadow existed. She didn't hear the frantic updates in her headset. The world was sky, wind, and the hunter's rhythm in her veins. On the ground, the base commander stalked like a caged tiger. Status? He barked. Still in pursuit, the radar officer said, voice unsteady. It's maneuvers. They're almost human. She's not backing down, the older officer said firmly. She never does. Emily dove through a jagged cloud bank, heart thrumming with the old thrill she had almost forgotten. Her instincts screamed that the drone wasn't just pre-programmed. It was adapting, anticipating her moves like a living, breathing opponent. This isn't random, she muttered. It's responding to me. Thinking, the commander repeated grimly through comms. I've faced opponents like this, she said, voice like steel. But they weren't made of metal. She would have to be sharper, faster, more unpredictable than ever. Ghost Hawk didn't win with brute force. She won by doing the impossible. Emily chopped the throttle, letting the Raptor stall just long enough to vanish from the drone's sensors. Then she dove, flipping the script completely. For a heartbeat, the rogue drone lost her. And in that heartbeat, she struck, ascending like a bullet into its blind spot. Her HUD lit up with a clean missile lock. Ghost Hawk, fire! The commander barked. Her finger hovered over the trigger. But she froze. Negative, too close to civilian zones. I'll drag it back to open squam. She yanked the Raptor into a near vertical climb. Her chest compressed under the crushing G's, teeth grinding, but her mind stayed crystal clear. The drone followed, spitting counterfire and tracer streams like angry sparks. Emily didn't flinch. She rolled right, dropped altitude sharply, and let the round sail harmlessly into the void. Holy, a recruit whispered in awe. She's flying like Ghost Hawk, another breathed. Told you, the older officer said with a smirk. Up in the cockpit, Emily's body screamed with strain, but adrenaline drowned out the pain. It was like the old days when she had ruled the skies on nothing but instinct and fire. And then, like a ghost in her mind, Falcon's voice whispered, Stay with it, Ghost. Don't think, feel. I know, she murmured. The drone suddenly shifted, trying to flank her. Watch it! It's flanking! The radar tech shouted. But she was already there. She cut power for half a heartbeat, then slammed the throttle forward, spinning the Raptor in a corkscrew that put her right on the drone's tail. A cold smile touched her lips. Got you. Her thumb hovered over the trigger, but the drone folded its wings, dropping like a stone in a death-defying plummet, before rocketing skyward again. Her lock was gone. Damn it, she spat, chest heaving. Whoever designed this thing wasn't just skilled, they were dangerous. Minutes to breach, the commander said, his voice like a hammer falling. Emily shut her eyes for just a moment, forcing her lungs to slow, anchoring herself in the seat. One chance. She had only one chance to pull the rogue drone away from the city. She rolled the Raptor, angling its nose toward the sun until the glare swallowed her. The drone followed, a perfect predator, but the blinding light scattered its sensors. That single moment, barely a breath, was all she needed. She pulled a sharp loop, diving away from the skyline and arcing back toward the endless ocean. Ghost Hawk, what are you doing? Falcon's voice in her memory was sharp, questioning. Buying us time, she answered, teeth gritted. If it stays on me, I can neutralize it over water. No collateral damage. There was a beat of hesitation on the open channel. Then the commander's voice came back, resigned but steady. You're calling the shots now. Just don't die out there. On the ground, the recruits crowded around the glowing monitors, silent. Their instructor, this civilian they'd underestimated, was doing things they'd only ever seen in simulation. Her Raptor danced in the sky like it had a mind of its own. Is this even real? One whispered. As real as it gets, the older officer said under his breath, never taking his eyes from the screen. You're watching the best pilot alive. Emily dropped altitude again, the Raptor skimming so close to the water that spray kissed her canopy. Behind her, the drone carved through the sky, sleek and relentless. She could almost feel its focus, cold, calculating, unhuman. Falcon's voice echoed in her mind, calm and razor-sharp. When you're outmatched, flip the script. Make them chase your shadow. Her lips curved into a thin, dangerous smile. All right, Falcon, let's dance. She punched out flares, a trail of blazing heat signatures twisting behind her like fiery breadcrumbs. The drone jerked, confused, canning for her true position. Emily seized the opening, banking hard left and pulling into a steep climb, G-forces slamming her into the seat. From this high ground, the ocean spread beneath her like a blue infinity. The lock-on tone warbled in her helmet. Target acquired, she said aloud. Take the shot, the commander ordered. Her finger hovered over the trigger, but she didn't fire. One missile would end the drone, but if she missed, if the detonation happened too close to the coast? Her breath caught. No, she whispered. Not yet. I can drag it farther out. She thumbed the comm switch, cutting the tower's protests into silence. This wasn't their fight anymore. It was hers. The drone chased her over the open ocean, and the world collapsed into a tunnel, the shimmer of water below, the streak of the rogue machine ahead. Her heart pounded with an old, dangerous thrill. Ghost Hawk, she murmured to herself. You've still got this. She dove hard, the F-22 screaming, G-forces crushing her chest, her lungs fighting for air. Her gloved hands were steady, no tremor, no hesitation. This sky, this razor's edge between life and death, was where she truly belonged, no matter how long she tried to bury that truth. The drone mirrored her every move, almost alive in its precision. This thing isn't just fast, she muttered. Eyes flicked across the HUD, scanning, calculating. It's reading me. Ghost Hawk, status. The commander's voice snapped through the static. Still in pursuit, she said. Feels like I'm fighting a phantom. The drone tilted up into a near vertical climb, slicing through a bank of clouds like a blade. Emily followed without hesitation, shoving the throttle forward. Engines roared, the Raptor clawing skyward. Her chest felt like a steel band was crushing it, but she didn't ease off. Every move was instinct and memory, predator and prey, spinning in a lethal ballet. On the ground, recruits and officers watched the radar as her signal spiraled and looped like calligraphy drawn in the sky. She's unreal, a recruit whispered, awed. Unreal? The older officer smirked faintly. She's Ghost Hawk. Emily's finger danced across the weapons panel, bringing her systems online. The soft hum of readiness filled the cockpit. Targeting mode active, she muttered. Then the piercing tone hit her ears, a missile lock. For a heartbeat, she thought it was hers. Then the alarm screamed. The drone had her. Damn! She yanked the Raptor into a hard right dive, clouds ripping past her canopy. A missile streaked across her left side, close enough to rattle the jet. Heat and smoke curled past the glass, and her breath hitched, but her hands never faltered. You want to play dirty? She growled. Fine, let's play. Chaos rippled through the control tower. It's firing on her, a radar tech shouted. Do we have intercept options? The commander barked. Negative, another officer answered grimly. Ghost Hawk's the only one close enough. If she fails, the man didn't finish. Silence swallowed the room. Every eye was locked on the monitors. Emily shoved the Raptor faster, engines screaming. Flares burst from her tail, fiery decoys that danced across the sky, giving her seconds, fragile, precious seconds. She rolled the jet into an inverted dive, the earth spinning dizzy below. Locking on to me won't save you, she whispered, narrowing her eyes. Her HUD flickered. The drone was trying to jam her radar. Emily smirked. Clever, but not clever enough. She flipped to manual targeting, fingers gliding over the controls with a surgeon's precision. Years of combat came flooding back. Every high-stakes dogfight, every brush with death. Ghost Hawk, talk to me, the commander's voice cut through. I've got it, she said, her tone like a blade. Trust me. The drone swept low over the ocean, skimming the waves. Emily stayed locked in, the Raptor slicing through the mist, salt water spattering her underside. Her breathing slowed. Her world shrank to the glowing crosshairs. This is it, she whispered. But the drone wasn't finished. It shot upward, then dropped behind her with terrifying speed. Missile lock detected. The alarm shrieked. Falcon's voice returned, calm and steady in her head. Never let them box you in. Make them think they've won. Emily cut power, letting the Raptor stall for a heartbeat of freefall. Then she slammed the throttle forward. The sudden drop sent the drone surging past, losing its lock. She rolled smoothly back into position, now on its tail. Not so smart now, are you? Her finger hovered over the trigger again. Still too close to shore. She shook her head. I need it farther out. The commander's voice cracked over comms, desperate. Ghost Hawk, take the shot before it's too late. Negative, she snapped. I've got a plan. A plan? Yeah, I make it think I'm losing. She eased the throttle back, her movements deliberately sloppy, like a rookie's panicked flinch. The drone reacted instantly, aggressive and hungry, closing in for the kill. Emily waited, coiled, ready. Her pulse slowed to a predator's rhythm. Emily's heartbeat slowed to a steady, deliberate rhythm. Her breathing evened out, calm and measured. She let the drone come closer, stalking her across the open sky. Come on, she whispered to herself, barely moving her lips. Take the bait. A flash erupted from the enemy drone. Missile launch. Emily banked the Raptor hard, feeling the G-forces claw at her body as the missile skimmed past her tail, missing by a breath. Behind her, the explosion bloomed in a fiery blossom that lit the sky, but she didn't flinch. Every nerve in her body was focused. She had drawn the drone far enough now, 50 miles out, over nothing but endless ocean. Ghost Hawk, you're clear of the coast, the radar tech's voice crackled in her helmet. Her lips curled into a sharp smile. Good. With a flick of her wrist, Emily rolled the Raptor, the motion fluid and instinctive, locking onto the drone with the kind of precision that had made her instructors, years ago, call her a natural-born ace. Her helmet filled with the piercing tone of a missile lock. This is Ghost Hawk, she said, voice calm but edged with steel. Target acquired. But before she could fire, the drone pulled an acrobatic, almost impossible maneuver, scattering decoy flares that split into 3 false radar signatures. Emily narrowed her eyes, unamused. You think I can't see through that? Switching her system to heat signature tracking, she filtered the real target from the illusions, isolating the one true adversary. Her finger hovered over the trigger. This ends now. The Raptor roared like a living beast as she shoved the throttle to maximum, the engine's scream vibrating through her bones. Her eyes burned with unshakable focus. One by one, the decoys fell away from her radar, until only the real drone remained. This wasn't just another piece of military hardware. It felt alive, an opponent that learned and adapted mid-flight, evolving with every maneuver. Ghost Hawk, status? The commander's voice demanded through the comms. Locked on, Emily replied, her tone cold, precise. But this thing's smarter than anything I've faced. The drone snapped into a brutal right bank, a move so sharp that any pilot with less experience would have lost it in the sky. Emily mirrored the maneuver perfectly, her hands and body fused with the Raptor as though the aircraft was an extension of herself. The crushing G-forces tried to wring the air from her lungs, but she embraced the pain. Pain meant she was alive and in control. Tracking target. She muttered under her breath, eyes narrowing. Let's see how you handle this. She rolled the Raptor into an inverted dive, plummeting toward the glittering ocean. The drone followed, a black spear slicing through the sky. The sea surged upward, sunlight flashing off the waves, blinding. At the last heartbeat, Emily yanked the Raptor level, skimming so close that ocean spray licked the belly of the jet. The drone mimicked her perfectly. Damn, she hissed. You're good, but I'm better. High in the command tower, recruits huddled around the radar display. Emily's maneuvers defied everything they'd been taught in the safety of the classroom. She's dancing with it, one whispered. She's controlling the fight, the older officer corrected, his voice reverent. That's Ghost Hawk's way. She doesn't just react, she leads. Emily snapped into a hard left and rolled the Raptor into a corkscrew dive, twisting the sky into a blur. The drone lagged just enough for her to seize the advantage. Her targeting system chirped a lock. Her thumb hovered over the trigger. Fire, Ghost Hawk, the commander barked. Not yet, she murmured. Her gut told her to wait. The drone suddenly shot upward, breaking her lock. Damn it, she cursed, yanking the Raptor after it, bursting through the clouds into the raw brilliance of open sky. Sunlight flooded her cockpit, painting her visor gold. Ghost Hawk, don't let it outmaneuver you, the commander warned. It won't, she said, her voice like sharpened steel. Not while I'm breathing. The Raptor clawed up to 40,000 feet, its wings cutting the air as if slicing the heavens open. The drone rocketed past her nose and Emily rolled the jet upside down, diving onto its tail. This was a duel of instinct versus calculation, human will against machine logic. For a fleeting moment, Falcon's voice surfaced in her memory, calm and confident as always. Don't think like a soldier. Think like the sky. Own every inch of it. Yeah, Falcon, she whispered. I remember. The drone fired again. 2 missiles this time. Emily's HUD screamed with warning lights. Her heart kicked into a faster rhythm, but her hands moved with steady precision. She deployed countermeasures, flares bursting like miniature suns behind her. The first missile veered off, exploding harmlessly. The second kept coming. Emily snapped the Raptor into a violent roll. The missile skimmed past her right wing by inches before detonating, the shock wave rocking the jet. Alarm shrieked in her helmet. Status, Ghost Hawk? The tower demanded. Still flying, she gritted out. Barely. She shoved the Raptor higher, pushing the airframe to its limits. Metal groaned under the strain, her vision tunneling at the edges. The drone closed in, relentless. Come on, she thought, show me your hand. The drone climbed higher, daring her to follow. Emily smirked. Bad move. She rolled left, cutting her power for a single heartbeat, then slammed the throttle forward. The Raptor surged. The drone hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. Long enough, her targeting system sang its lock. Take it, Ghost Hawk, the commander shouted. Firing, she said, her voice a razor's edge. The missile ripped from her wing like a bolt of lightning, leaving a brilliant white trail across the endless blue. It struck the drone's wing dead on. Fire and smoke erupted, shearing the metal apart. Cheers exploded in the command tower. She got it, someone shouted, but Emily's relief froze in her chest. The drone didn't fall. Damaged and burning, it stabilized, compensating with its remaining systems. It's still flying, she breathed. Finish it, the commander barked. Trying, she muttered, teeth clenched as she dove into pursuit again. The drone was wounded, slower now, but still deadly. It spat a volley of smaller missiles, a desperate flurry. Emily wove through them, every nerve in her body alive, her mind a step ahead of the machine. She fired again, but the drone twisted into a spiral, slipping away. This thing won't die, she hissed, sweat trailing down her temple. You're the only one who can stop it, the commander said. Do whatever it takes. Her grip on the controls tightened. This wasn't just a battle anymore. It was personal. The drone had become a mirror of every ghost from her past, every fight she'd escaped, every shadow she'd left unresolved, and she would not let it win. All right, she whispered, let's end this. Emily rolled the Raptor into a diving pursuit, a maneuver she had attempted only once in her career, an insane all-or-nothing gamble that demanded blind faith in her instincts. Ghost Hawk, what are you doing? The commander asked. Something insane, she said, and despite the chaos, a grin flickered across her face. The Raptor and the drone became twin streaks of fury across the sky, a deadly dance of speed and precision. The world blurred. The air vibrated with the raw energy of the chase. This was it, the moment Ghost Hawk had been born for. The sky itself had become her battlefield, painted with smoke trails and burning air, as she dove after the crippled, still lethal machine. The drone's wings sparked and flickered, jagged arcs of light scattering like the last gasps of a dying star. Emily Rhodes knew it wouldn't go down easily. If anything, the more cornered it became, the more dangerous it would be. Machines didn't know fear. They didn't hesitate. "Ghost Hawk, report!" The commander's voice cut sharply through the comms, laced with tension. Emily's gaze never wavered from the crippled drone twisting against the sky. "It's wounded," she said, her voice steady, "but it's still fighting. I'm taking it down, no matter what it takes." Down in the control room, the air went still. Everyone understood what she meant. She was willing to risk everything. Her jet, her life, everything she had promised herself, she had left behind. The older officer crossed his arms, his eyes locked on her blip moving across the radar screen. "She won't back down," he muttered quietly. "She's always been like this. Ghost Hawk doesn't run." In the cockpit, Emily shoved the throttle forward. The Raptor lunged ahead, alive beneath her, every vibration humming through her bones. Her mind sharpened, her instincts electric with calculation. In the back of her mind, Falcon's voice, a memory of her old wingman, whispered, "When you're outnumbered or outgunned, don't fight the enemy on their terms." "Rewrite the fight," she murmured to herself, lips curling into a grin. The drone swerved hard toward her, spitting a burst of guided munitions. Emily rolled the Raptor sharply left, then climbed into the blinding sunlight. Heat-seeking missiles latched onto her trail, closing fast. Instead of fleeing, she eased back the throttle just slightly, luring them in. Her hands glided over the controls, almost dancing, and she snapped the jet into a high-speed barrel roll while dumping countermeasures. Two of the missiles veered away, bursting harmlessly in the distance. The third held tight to her tail. "Ghost Hawk, you've got one on your six," a radar technician shouted from the tower. "Not for long," Emily muttered. She killed the throttle in an instant, letting the missile eat up the distance, then yanked the Raptor into a vicious vertical climb. The missile followed blindly, overshot her at the peak, and exploded in a brilliant fireball above the clouds. The shockwave rocked the jet, but Emily's hands were steady, her corrections smooth and practiced. "She's insane," one of the recruits whispered, eyes wide with awe. "She's brilliant," the older officer corrected, a faint smile flickering across his face. The drone wasn't finished. It looped back, arrowing straight for her. For a heartbeat, it was a game of chicken. Machine versus human. Emily's jaw locked. "All right," she breathed. "Let's finish this, you stubborn piece of metal." She dove straight at it. Air screamed across the canopy. Alarms howled in her cockpit, warning of imminent collision. Every nerve in her body screamed at her to pull up, to live. She didn't. Not yet. "Ghost Hawk, break off!" the commander barked. "Not yet," she whispered. Closer. Closer. The drone's black silhouette filled her vision. At the last heartbeat, Emily rolled the Raptor and unleashed a short, brutal burst from the Vulcan cannon. The rounds chewed through the drone's fuselage, tearing into its sensors. The two aircraft screamed past each other by a razor's edge. "Yes," she growled under her breath. The drone wobbled now, its systems struggling to compensate, but it wasn't done. It swung around and spat a storm of micro-missiles. Emily threaded through them with impossible precision, her movements sharp and fluid, almost beyond human. Ghost Hawk, the part of her she had buried, was alive again, burning through her veins like wildfire. "You're not walking away from this," she whispered to the drone. "Neither of us are." "Ghost Hawk, you're burning fuel," the commander's voice snapped, tight with worry. "Disengage and regroup." "No," she said, firm, unshakable. "This ends here." She shoved the Raptor into a vertical climb, punching for the edge of the upper atmosphere. The drone followed, relentless, unblinking. At 50,000 feet, the air thinned. Her oxygen alarms chirped a warning. Sweat rolled down her temple beneath the mask, her breathing quickening with the strain. "Ghost Hawk, what's your plan?" the commander demanded. Emily's lips curved into a grim smile. "Something Falcon taught me." She rolled the jet into a corkscrew dive, cutting power as she twisted at a brutal angle meant to force the drone to overshoot. G-forces slammed her into the harness. Black spots danced at the edges of her vision. But the maneuver worked. The drone slid past her, suddenly exposed. "I've got you," she whispered, calm and deadly. Her thumb hit the trigger. A Sidewinder missile streaked off the rail, slicing through the sky and smashing into the drone's rear thruster. The explosion was blinding. Fire and fragments scattered across the heavens. "She did it!" a recruit shouted, and the control room erupted into cheers. Emily didn't cheer. Her HUD lit up with flashing red alerts. The blast wave had crippled her Raptor. One engine sputtering, hydraulics bleeding pressure fast. "Ghost Hawk, you're hit!" the commander barked. "Eject now!" "No," Emily gritted out. "I can land it." The drone was gone, but her fight wasn't. The jet shuddered violently, warning tones screaming. Below her stretched the endless, merciless ocean. She had minutes, maybe less, to choose her fate. "Ghost Hawk, talk to me," the commander urged, his voice threaded with fear. "I'm bringing her home," Emily replied. Her tone was calm, but her heart pounded like a war drum. And in that moment she understood. She hadn't lost Ghost Hawk. She hadn't buried her. She'd only forgotten who she was. A pilot who never quit, no matter how impossible the odds. "Falcon," she thought softly. "I'm not done yet." She eased the Raptor into a wide, cautious turn toward the distant airbase. Smoke trailed from the left engine, a dark ribbon against the bright sky. Her breath slowed as she wrestled the controls, feeling every tremor in the dying jet. The damage was catastrophic. Hydraulics fading, flight systems howling with protest at every movement. "Ghost Hawk, your left engine is gone," the commander said, his voice sharp with panic. "You won't make the runway like this. Eject. Now." "Negative," Emily said, her voice ice cold, steady. "I'm not leaving her out here. This bird isn't dying over the ocean." In the tower, a heavy silence fell. Recruits stared at the radar, wide-eyed. "Why won't she eject?" one whispered. The older officer answered without hesitation. "Because she's Ghost Hawk. She doesn't run. If she can bring that jet home, she will, no matter the bond." Emily's gloved hands tightened on the stick, slick with sweat. She had landed damaged jets before, but this was different. The Raptor wasn't limping. It was dying beneath her. Every shudder rattled her bones. Every alarm reminded her that one mistake, one heartbeat of hesitation, and the ocean would swallow her whole. Emily's pulse pounded harder than it had in years, a rapid drumbeat echoing in her chest. This wasn't about skill anymore. This was survival. "Ghost Hawk, you're less than 5 minutes out," the control tower called over the radio. "Do you copy?" "Copy," Emily answered, her jaw tight with resolve. "Clear the runway. I'm coming in heavy." "Already done," the commander replied, his voice taut with tension. "All emergency crews are on standby. Don't you dare give up on us now." Emily's lips twitched into a faint, grim smile. "Ghost Hawk doesn't give up." Falcon's voice drifted through her memory, warm and steady, the way it always had been when they flew together. She could almost hear his laugh in her headset, see the fearless way he'd dive into enemy skies without hesitation. "You're the only one who can pull this off." His final words still rang clear. "Guess I still can," she muttered to herself. The coastline appeared in the distance, and the runway stretched across the earth like a thin scar. Emily adjusted her trajectory, every movement calculated to compensate for the failing hydraulics. The Raptor bucked against her control, fighting like a wounded predator, but she coaxed it along, steady hands guiding it home. Hydraulics at 30%, the onboard system droned. Emily ignored the warning. "You'll hold together for me, won't you?" she whispered to the battered jet. "Just a little longer." The tower crackled again. "Ghost Hawk, you're coming in too fast. Reduce speed." "Can't," she replied with weak hesitation. "If I throttle down any more, she'll fall out of the sky." "Understood," the commander said, his voice softer now. "We'll be ready for you." On the ground, chaos met preparation. Fire trucks lined the runway edges, engines idling. Medics waited with stretchers at the ready. The recruits, kids who had once seen her as nothing more than a civilian instructor, now stood frozen, eyes wide and locked on the horizon. "She's really going to try it," one of them whispered. "She's not just trying," the older officer said with quiet certainty. "She's coming home." Emily lined up perfectly with the runway. She dropped altitude quickly, cutting the last engine to half throttle, carefully balancing the fine line between power and gravity. The cockpit rattled like it was ready to shake apart. Red warning lights flared across her panel, screaming for attention. "Pull it together," she whispered through gritted teeth. "Come on, girl, don't quit on me now." The ground rose up fast. At 200 feet, the jet wobbled violently, its wounded frame resisting every command. Emily fought the controls with everything she had left, arms trembling under the strain. At 100 feet, a piercing alarm warned she was descending too fast. She didn't listen. The landing gear groaned as it deployed, the sound more a prayer than a promise. Emily eased the nose up, bleeding speed in the last desperate seconds. The wheels struck the runway with a bone-jarring slam. Sparks burst from the undercarriage as the damaged hydraulics struggled to hold. "Brake! Brake!" she muttered under her breath. The Raptor veered hard to one side, threatening to spin out. Emily held the stick firm, her teeth clenched as the world blurred past. And then, finally, the jet screeched to a halt, trembling but intact. The silence that followed was deafening. Emily let out a shaky breath she hadn't even realized she was holding. "Tower," she said, her voice ragged but steady. "Ghost Hawk is home." The control room erupted in cheers. Officers and recruits leapt to their feet, clapping and shouting. The older officer only smiled, his eyes soft with recognition. "Told you," he said quietly. "She never lost it." The canopy hissed and lifted. Emily climbed out slowly, her flight suit drenched in sweat. Fire crews swarmed the jet, checking the smoking engine, but Emily only reached out and laid a hand on the scarred fuselage, giving it a gentle pat. "You did good, girl," she whispered to the plane. The commander strode toward her, caught somewhere between anger and awe. "Do you have any idea how insane that was?" Emily managed a faint, lopsided smirk. "Insane gets results." The recruits approached cautiously, their fear now mingled with pure admiration. One of them finally found the courage to speak. "Ma'am, are you really Ghost Hawk?" Emily looked straight at him, her gaze steady. "I was, and maybe I still am." The older officer chuckled. "She's Ghost Hawk, all right. Always was." Emily's eyes drifted to the horizon where the faint smoke of the destroyed drone curled into the sky. For the first time in years, she felt whole. The ghosts of her past weren't haunting her anymore. They were guiding her. "Commander," she said quietly, "if they ever send another one of those drones, you know where to find me." The commander gave a slow nod. "We'd be lucky to have you in the sky again." Emily smiled, a real smile this time, small but unshakable. "The skies are where I belong." As she walked across the tarmac, the fading sun stretched her silhouette across the concrete. The recruits watched in silence, filled with a newfound respect. Ghost Hawk wasn't just a call sign, it was a promise. A reminder that no matter how forgotten, no matter how battered, true warriors never stop flying.